No country has ever prospered that failed to put its own interests first. We will no longer surrender this country or its people to the false song of globalism.
New Right Network presents Right Now, the featured podcast of New Right Network. Mobilizing, countering the left, energizing the right. New Right Network, home of the New Right movement.
And welcome to Right Now, the featured podcast of the New Right Network. And with us today is a very special guest. She has a very unique perspective on something that we get a lot of questions about, people talking about honeypots, how to, CIA operatives, all this kind of stuff. It's Kate Buckley. She's I guess, are you a former cyber girl or once a cyber girl, always a cyber girl? How does that work?
I would say former.
Okay, former cyber girl. And how many years were you at the mansion and kind of associated with all that?
Well, all in all, I believe I worked for Playboy Enterprises about 10 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, man, that's a long time. And but other than that, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself if people haven't seen you and, what are you up to? What are you about?
Gosh, I haven't been about much since my days of Playboy. I'm a mom. That's really been, my life. And I wasn't even really very political, unless you ask some of my Facebook friends, I guess. I was always kind of the odd man out when it came to that stuff. I was living in Southern California and most of my friends were liberal. And so I just mostly kept to myself. And it was really the election of Donald Trump, which I will admit I was very confused about at first. He was not my candidate. I just didn't get it at first. And so, but watching things pan out, and then with the introduction of Hugh, I started to look into more and I started to figure out what it was about Donald Trump. And since then, I've been very vocal. So I'd say about a little over a year.
Now, are you a converted liberal or have you always been kind of a conservative?
No, I've always been a conservative. I grew up with parents that were both conservative and, always talking about that stuff when I was a kid, and just these principles that have been in me for always. Like I said, I wasn't very political, but I feel like with how volatile everything had become, it just really pushed me into, I kind of didn't have a choice anymore. I had to speak up.
Well, we've spoken to a lot of people that are conservative in Southern California, and you guys are unicorns out there. And I think that, I think that honestly, a lot of people are just uneducated when it comes to politics and in Southern California, so they don't really get into it. They're like, oh, Katy Perry's going to vote Democrat, so I'm going to vote Democrat. And I think that's a major problem. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that. I would say that Southern California is kind of the land of followers. And they will never admit to that. They all think that they're trailblazers and like cutting edge or whatever. They're not cutting edge on anything. And they really are just, for the most part, very influenced by pop culture and all of this. And we know how, infiltrated pop culture has been.
Californication. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, let's get into it. 'Cause, when I started talking to people, when I said, who you were, and, people like, oh, wow, she was at the Playboy Mansion. Because, there's all kinds of rumors. And if anybody wants to know how I found this out, I actually saw on a show called Edge of Wonder. If you've never seen it, I really want you to go check that out over on YouTube. And you were talking about something about how you walked in, you felt like it was your guardian angel because he had met this young man that was very odd because, by the way, I laughed out loud when you said in the interview. You said because everybody that was so old, it's like they came over with Hef and settled the West.
Yeah.
And so why don't we get into that, and then the upstairs, and then the tour. Let's just kind of go over that a little bit.
Okay, sure. So yeah, my very first experience with the Playboy Mansion, I was actually living in Arizona at the time, and they flew me out to stay at the mansion to do my first pictorial for a couple days. And Hef and the girlfriends were in Cannes for the film festival. So I was pretty much kind of in this big house alone, even though I was staying in a guest house. And I walked in, so they told me to go into the main house, treat it like it was my own, feel free to use the pool or whatever. And when I get hungry, to just go into the kitchen and the chef will make me whatever I want. So I finally got hungry and I went in there and I was greeted by this young good looking guy who was the butler, which I thought was very strange just because you don't think of a young, good looking guy being a butler. But also it became.
You picture old Jeeves.
But yes, exactly.
You picture old Jeeves, right?
Which basically every other person at the Playboy Mansion was. They were all older and they had been there forever, which, kind of side note, if there were nefarious things going on at the Playboy Mansion, I think that would be maybe something you'd expect. Because if you have these people working for you and they're seeing bad things, you don't have a big turnover of employee, right? You're gonna keep these people around. So, which is definitely what I saw.
Right. It would probably be very similar to the Clinton retirement program.
Oh boy, I know. Yes. So anyway, this young man, helped me put in my food order or whatever. And he ended up sitting and talking with me. And he said, you're actually very lucky that they're out of town. And I was confused by that because this was obviously, a dream of mine, as it would be any girl doing this. She obviously is a fan of Hugh Hefner if she's going to be doing Playboy. So I asked him, what he meant. And he was like, I can tell, you're a nice girl and I can tell that you are very excited to be here and I understand, but I'm going to make you an offer. Okay. I'm going to make a deal with you. I will take you around and I'll show you the entire mansion, anything that you want to see, under one condition. You never go upstairs again. And I was like, okay.
That sounds ominous right there. Right.
Yeah. And he was like, it didn't stop there. He was like, I don't care if if you have friends going upstairs, if somebody you trust is like, hey, Kate, come upstairs. I don't care if all the bathrooms downstairs are occupied and you have to go to the bathroom. You do not take one step upstairs. And I was like, okay, whatever. So he did. He took me around the mansion. I got to go into all of the girlfriends' rooms. I got to go in Hef's room, in his huge bathroom. He had this closet full of those silk pajamas, like just exactly what you would think. I actually got to try a pair on. He took me through, the library and the theater and all of these things. And let me tell you, first of all, the Playboy Mansion was, I don't know. It was not as impressive as it's big and it's historic, but it looks like it was designed by, the makers of Scooby-Doo or something like green,
right.
Green carpeting. Like you literally push on panels.
70s campy, right?
What'd you say?
70s campy, right?
Exactly. Every single piece of artwork in the house is a different artist's rendition of Hef. It's like just bizarre.
Naturally.
But he literally did take me around and like there were rivets on the molding on the wall that you would push and it would open up. And so we didn't go in there, and I don't know if they were passageways or
the famous Elvis room, I believe, and all this kind of stuff. Right.
Yeah. So, and then after that, I did keep my promise to him. I never set foot upstairs again, which was, from what I hear, very lucky. I do have friends that went upstairs, and while I don't have the full story of that, I do know some.
What are we talking about? Are we talking about just, basically propositioning for sex happening, orgies, drug use? What are we talking about?
Orgies, drug use, maybe a little bit both of unwanted of either of those.
So it's like a nursing home gone wild up there.
Yeah, I don't know. And I do remember a particular STD going around that was resulting from going upstairs, and big mess. So I was lucky that I never did
None
that.
of that
and
sounds good.
Interestingly enough, every model, and I never saw that butler again, and every model I asked since then, and actually other butlers too, nobody remembered him. So that was really weird.
Ooh,
I really do feel like he might.
That's crazy, but that is. I heard that story. I think that's a great story. In your speculation, do you think that people were going up, and do you think that Hef was potentially involved in, or not just Hef, really? There was a lot of people involved back then, I guess, and that could have been getting dirt on politicians, movie stars, everybody.
Yeah, listen, it's a definite possibility. You kind of have a perfect storm here of what we would call a fantasy land. And you not only have the one end of the politicians and the you know, celebrities that kind of look at this as the pinnacle of their life, right? They get to go to the Playboy Mansion. But you also have a entire crop of women who I actually grew up in LA and did a little bit of acting from my entire life, actually, from 2 until 14 when I moved away. And so I think I knew enough about the industry not to think that this was going to make me famous. I wasn't going to be a star, you know, that didn't happen there. I think there were maybe 2 or 3 girls in the history of Playboy to ever be made a star.
Right,
and
Pamela
so
Anderson, right,
Pamela
things like that.
Anderson, Carmen Electra, that
Oh
might
yeah.
have been it. So, you know, I didn't go into it thinking like, I went into it for my own reasons, but not thinking that I was going to be a star. But you get some girl from Kansas or whatever who has not lived that life, and it is easier to convince her that, hey baby, I'm going to make you a star, but just
I
come
can
upstairs.
confirm because I'm originally from Kansas, so that's actually.
Are you? That's
yeah.
funny.
Yep. But
not to knock it. Actually, honestly, I wish I was from Kansas because
no, Southern California is gorgeous. I love it out there.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. When people get like, you know, it's kind of like they go out there to be this big star, right? And then they realize that LA is a tough town, and you know, there's a lot of broken dreams out there. And then they end up, you know, I'm not saying the Playboy's that way. Playboy's actually really great, but I mean, there's a lot worse fates ever than going to like something like Playboy for sure. That I see people. But no, I agree. It's not going to make you superstar famous or nothing like that. But honestly, you have to admit, it had to be a hell of a gig, and it had to open up some great doors.
It did. And for a while there, they were even acting kind of as a management company. They had actually, the whole Playboy Enterprise thing was a big mess around 2000, 2001 when they first started their online Playboy.com, because they had no idea what they're doing. Again, you have these decrepit 300-year-olds that are running this business. And the cyber world was like this, you know,
Civil war between the Playmates and the cyber girls, right?
Right. But they had no idea what they were doing. It was like cavemen poking this thing with a stick. So they spent millions of dollars trying to put out this Playboy.com. They could have hired some guys out of college and done it more beautifully, and it probably would have been more user friendly, whatever. And I believe the year 2000 or 2001, they didn't make a profit. So they brought in some young blood from, I believe it was MGM, and they were trying to, and when I say young, I think he was in his like early 50s. They were trying
okay, right.
So, you know.
Spring chicken, by Hef standards.
Right, exactly. And they were trying to make it, you know, into a management company, trying to get more involved in movies and stuff. And then you had the involvement of the reality TV when they did The Girls Next Door. And, you know, they were trying to stay with the times, because at the time they held the market on nothing. Maxim had all the beautiful women. Penthouse showed more. You know, such and such had better articles. It was like they didn't hold the market on anything, and they were kind of drowning. So it was, I mean, to me, it was like, for some reason, as a child, I know this is like weird, gross, whatever. I used to go through Playboy magazines with my friend Erica, and we would just like kind of dream about doing this. So to me, it was just like being a part of history and something that I always just thought was beautiful. So I loved it for those reasons. And
sure. I was born in 1980, and I think that, you know, Playboy was the national icon the entire time I was growing up. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I think the 90s might have been like Playboy heyday. I think they had
absolutely. The late 80s, the 90s, all through it. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But so how was it being conservative in that atmosphere? I mean, because I'm sure that there was a lot of, I mean, there's all kinds of crazy people that go to those kind of things. They're not saying everybody's crazy, but you get a lot of that. So was it compromising? Was it testing? What was it?
You know, surprisingly enough, the politics didn't come up very much with the Playboy
I
Mansion.
imagine. I understand that.
And in fact, I was very antisocial when I went to the Playboy Mansion. It was very overwhelming for me. There was a very strange energy, if you want to call it that. It was intimidating, I think. And so I kind of just stuck to myself and, you know, some of the other girls. And because I was a cyber girl, I was not under contract to be the entertainment. I was just there to, you know, hang out, luckily. So that was one of the actual perks of being a cyber girl as opposed to being a playmate, is that they didn't own me. I could show up, I could leave, I could drink. I never did, but.
Well, let me ask you this then. I mean, you can deny, you don't have to answer this if you don't want to, but it's a question that comes up the most about Playboy. Did all the playmates have to sleep with Hef to be a playmate?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know that.
I'm sure you've heard that before, right?
Yes, I had definitely heard that. And of course, you know, when with the creation of the cyber club and the creation of this cyber girl thing, which was this new thing, it was almost like when they told me that I was going to be that, it was like a consolation prize. I really wanted to be a playmate. And so I was like, oh, bummer. That's what I thought at first. In the long run, I definitely got the better end of the deal. But there were times that I thought, okay, well, is it because I didn't sleep with Hef? Is it because when I go to the Playboy Mansion, I'm not like turned on, like bubbly and talking to people and schmoozing and like trying to work that angle? So eventually I did end up getting contacted both by a playmate and this kind of pop star girl. Basically spelling it out for me, not necessarily sleeping with Hef, but basically telling me that if I were to, basically what they were outlining to me was prostitution, and that this would guarantee me a spot as a playmate, and certain things on the menu that I'd be willing to do would
Right. The more you were willing to do, the more you would be, I guess, rewarded by this.
Move me up the ranks. In fact, they were talking about you know, they'll buy you an apartment, they'll buy you a car, you'll get all the greatest auditions and jobs and blah, 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 blah. So that can kind of confirm my suspicions of at least some extent of that. I don't know if that is true of all playmates. I would imagine not. I don't think that they could get that many. I can't imagine that they could get that many girls on board with that. But certainly, like we said before, there are those girls that it might be tempting. They don't know any better. This is new and exciting, and they think
You said some of them get right off the bus and they're desperate for fame.
Exactly.
But let's get to a little politics out in California. What's going on with the craziness in Kamala Harris? I mean, she seems to be full tilt, full blown nuts. Is that true?
I mean, I think they're all kind of nuts. I'm no longer in California. I'm in Arizona now, which is a much nicer state for politics. In fact, it's part of the reason why I moved here. California.
I love Arizona too. Yeah.
Yeah, California is getting very scary.
Arizona's got problems going Democrat too, by the way. I mean, they've had some issues out there.
Well, the problem is that all the Californians are moving to Arizona and darkening our doorstep, even though I am one of them.
No, that's a common trend throughout the West because of the problems in California. You see that in Idaho. You see that in New Mexico, obviously, because that went blue. And, you know, you see it in Colorado. I have a friend that actually owns a restaurant bar out in Vail, Colorado. And above his bar, he has a sign that says, "We don't give a shit what you do in California. This is Colorado. What do you want to drink?" I like that because you get a lot of that attitude from the Californians, and they go out there and they bring their politics with them and ruin those Western states.
Well, definitely. But isn't it kind of the trend in the world, though? I mean, people allow their countries even to get destroyed, and then suddenly they need to be a refugee in a different country. I mean, that's not to put all the blame on those people, but it's kind of that same mentality. Californians have destroyed California with their votes, and now instead of fixing California, which honestly, in my opinion, it might be beyond repair, they move.
Which is a shame because it is paradise. It truly is.
That's the thing that blows my mind. If you think about California as a territory, you have literally everything. You've got snowy mountains, you've got the beach, you've got wine country, you've got Disneyland, you've got Hollywood, you have what's that called with all the tech people up north?
Right, Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley.
Right.
You literally have every resource that you could have in a state, and they're bankrupt. So that is mismanagement, you know, definitely.
It's just a problem that so many people, you know, went west and they wanted to chase that California dream. And when they landed there, you know, they just became just super liberal and they put in these social programs. And honestly, it's just unsustainable. So I hope that in the future, maybe California is at least part of it savable. I'm hoping. What do you think? You think no way?
I mean, I never say never, but it's really going to depend on once you start getting all of those people dependent on government programs and handouts and things like that, that's really hard to overturn because nobody's going to vote away their extra money, right? And especially if you're giving, rights to people that are there illegally, and you've got a constant influx of that. I just don't see, it would take something very aggressive to kind of put the kibosh on that.
I agree. Like this Yang guy that's running in the Democratic primaries, he promised $1,000 and he calls it his people the Yang Gang. And all these people want is $1,000 a month. Here's my question. I don't know where you're living in the country that $1,000 a month is going to pay the bills, but if so, tell me where it is. It must be great.
Not to mention the fact that it's got to be like, here, I'm handing you this $1,000, but I'm reaching around into your back pocket and I'm going to take those out, that same amount from you in taxes anyway. Like it's going to cut.
100%.
There's no such thing as free money. This is all coming from you anyway. If you're paying taxes, you're basically just paying into that system to get this little chunk back. And I don't understand why people don't get that.
I don't either. Also, so you have extensive, experience out with people out in Hollywood, and you've probably seen your fair share of movie stars, et cetera. And, that's another problem that California is pumping out is I don't know if those movie stars, I don't know where they think that they became experts on anything political, but they just can't shut their damn mouths, can they?
No, they can't. And they're definitely not offering up, their money and their homes. I actually saw a really great, I don't remember if it was a meme or what, but saying that if you're talking about socialism, Hollywood would be a great place to try that. And, instead of giving Brad Pitt his, $10 million paycheck, he should spread it out amongst the rest of SAG.
Lead by example, Brad.
Brad Pitt?
Right, Brad Pitt. Lead by example. Give up your money. Exactly. Invite them in to live with you. Lead by example.
Exactly. So.
Or Cher. Remember that one when Cher, she was all for, hey, let all these illegals in. And they say, okay, we'll put them in Los Angeles. And she goes, we can't take them in Los Angeles.
She seems very confused to me. She does. I remember that tweet where she was like, well, wait, they can't come here.
Right.
You can kind of almost like smell the like burning cogs in her brain as she's trying to figure this out. There is a wonderful aspect to thinking with your heart, but if you don't also use your brain, you will do more damage than good. And so these people are very trendy, like, oh, you've just got to have a heart and just give everybody everything they need. Well, you will eventually run out of resources, and then you have screwed yourself and you've screwed everybody else. So it's not unkind to be like, hold on, let's get a plan and let's do this the smart way.
Perhaps a little practicality. Perhaps. Right.
Exactly.
Maybe I'm just crazy. So what do you think is going to happen? We have the Democratic debates tonight. Actually, we're probably going to air this tomorrow, so it'll be the day after. Tomorrow, whenever this is coming out, what do you think people are going to see that's going to happen in the debates or what you saw last night that you think that people need to pay attention to? I think that people need to pay attention to how insane Bernie Sanders is and how he's going to sink the country.
I didn't watch last night, and I don't even know if I'll watch. I watched last time, and it was just completely laughable. These people are just getting crazier and crazier. They're not even trying to hide it anymore. They are just trying to like out social justice warrior each other, and they are just saying the most insane things. Once upon a time, even if you were on the left, you at least kind of tried to hide some of these, goals that you had of taking everything away from people. And I don't know, they just seem to be getting further and further and further and further left, very extreme. And I have to think that people that are kind of moderate or anywhere towards the middle, or honestly, anywhere that isn't in the extreme, is sitting there watching these, just clenching their butt cheeks. Like, what is happening?
I think that their ultimate dream would be global welfare and the American taxpayers pay for it all. I honestly believe that that's what they would do.
I mean, it's true. And you have to, I know that you guys aren't into Q. That's not your thing. But
it's not really our bag, but I know that you are. So, let's dive into that a little bit. So what do you got going for me there?
Well, I think the more that I'm seeing with it, it does seem like these are all very much global puppets. And they are working for, it's all who they're really working for who they're really working for. And so I do think we've had some bad ones on the right too. And I hate to say that because to me, ultimately, I know a lot of people in the Q community want to point out, well, it's not about right or left, and it really isn't. But the thing is that the principles still are important. And so while we might have had bad people on the right they were not actually doing the things, they were not living up to the principles of conservatism.
John McCain, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Well, for one example.
Right.
So, a lot of this, I think, is just kabuki theater. I think that they're all just characters or just actors playing these roles. And really the nefarious problem here is that we've got actual globalists trying to take over our country. And we can either have it, the socialism is how we just hand it over to them.
What do you think's going to happen with What do you think's going to happen with Epstein? Does he get whacked? Does he get Arkansas-cited?
Well, I think hopefully we have all the information we need from him anyway. Q has always said from the beginning, we have everything. They've got Hillary Clinton servers. They've got, I believe that they've had, they've been they've been monitoring these people since, at least Trump has been in office. I think that the idea of Q has really come from this military operation that has been going on since before Trump. And you've got these good people in military intelligence that have been watching these things happen in our country, watching, Benghazi and all of this crazy stuff. And I think that if Hillary Clinton would have gotten to office, there would have been a coup. But this is them doing everything the legal way. And I think that they have everything they need really to take down all of these corrupt people. But
then when are we going to burn this mother down, if that's the truth? I
know. Well, it's very easy to get impatient, but if you think about it, you get one shot to go after these people. So you need to make sure that you've got a clean DOJ, you've got a clean FBI. You need to make sure that the people that are going out and doing the arresting, the prosecuting, you have to make sure you've got clean judges. Otherwise, these people walk, and then that's it. So it has to be meticulous.
So, if people are looking for you out on the interwebs and they're like, hey, I want to see more of Kate, where would they find you? Do you have a website, social media? What's going on?
Well, I'm on social media. Kate_awakening is both my Twitter and my Instagram. And then most of what I do is on my YouTube channel, which is called The Kate Awakening. And it's just something that I started this year. I just felt like I needed to help kind of spread the word. And also I kind of felt like it was part of my duty to help normalize Trump support. I noticed
you're doing your part, right?
Right. I had an experience last October. I went to a Trump rally and I posted a picture of myself in a MAGA hat. I had over, 3,500 comments. I had people calling me every name in the book, saying I was a racist, saying my child should be taken away from me, my husband should leave me, I should die.
Your husband should leave you and your child should be taken away?
Yes. I had people saying, oh, it's a good thing you can't have children anymore, because I had been very vocal about my infertility issues when I was trying to have my son, and just really vicious comments.
That's amazing to go to such a personal level, to bring up, that's crazy.
Yeah, they went straight for it. And so it was nuts to me. And I knew that I was going to get somewhat of a backlash, but I did not expect for it to get that ugly. But at the same time, I was like, I'm leaving this up. I want everybody to be able to see this. I'm not backing down an inch. I just think that the more people are just so brainwashed into this hatred, and it's good for them. These people that followed me on Instagram or whatever, that felt like they know me. I've been very open about a lot of different things that I've gone through, and these people did feel like they know me. I think it's good for them too, because the next time they see a Trump supporter, maybe they'll think of me and be like, well, maybe they're not all racist. It's all we can really do is just to. That's
all they have is the Nazi racist tag. And so, though it's not true, they're going to use it until the very bitter end. Look at this Elijah Cummings thing. Baltimore is a true trash heap that is rat infested, and, he's still racist. That's what they're saying about Trump. So.
I know.
Well, I want to go ahead and, leave it there for today, but I hope that we will have you back in the near future, I guess I should say. And if you're looking for us, as always, you can find us at www.newrightnetwork.com and on all social media. That is Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at New Right Network. That is one word, at New Right Network. Everybody, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.
Thank you.
You've been listening to New Right Network, mobilizing, countering, energizing. Online at newrightnetwork.com.